That's a big question. Why media? For me, AI will never replace that human element.
Most of the media houses, the production houses, are now being controlled by the MBA holders.
I don't have an answer.
In India, there are students who have completed courses in printing technology, and they are working with the government in identifying fake currencies. There is a very thin line between fiction and reality.
One of the students were actually doing a character walking through a scene. Someone came in and accidentally kicked the lights.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Mind Talks, where we empower futures by inspiring knowledge and guiding values. Today we have two guests who arrived from Birmingham City University in Delhi. One of them is Dr. Sam Coley, who has over 30 years of experience. He's not just a professor, but he's also been a producer. He has trained producers. He has been a documentarian. He has been a researcher. And he has even authored books which is creating significant impact in the area of radio and technology. Apart from him, we have Kelvin Wong, who is a senior professor when it comes to animation, CGI effects, and he's passionate about animation and CGI effects and visual effects. And his students have won multiple awards, including the Royal Television Award,
right,
and including the Microsoft Imagine Cup, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Welcome to our podcast, Dr. Sam Coley and Kelvin.
Thank you.
First of all, the first question that comes to my mind is, why media? I mean, what drifted you? What moved you in this particular direction, starting with you?
Well, personally for me, I was inspired by the presenters that I listened to, the radio programs as a child growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I heard great radio programs and I wanted to make them myself. I think we all get inspired by the things that we see and consume around us. And, why not try it for yourself? Having that ambition can actually become a reality. And that's one of the reasons we're here to speak to you today. How do you make those steps? How do you transition from being a fan or a listener or a viewer into industry? And universities, higher education are a key way to do that. So, for me, it was listening to great content, being inspired and wanting to do that for myself.
Yeah, this goes back in the mid-90s. Computer animation wasn't a big thing back then. Mm-hmm. This was before Toy Story anyway. Right. So I was really inspired by TV commercials. They were really good back then, where they had the Benson and Hedges commercial. Mm-hmm. And then there were things like the Lawnmower Man. And when I saw those, it's like, wow, that's something I really want to do. But also I really wanted to do toys. I wanted to make toys. And no one knew what that is because, there wasn't an industry for that, especially at computer animation. Because computer animation back then, they were done by programmers. They were all quite clunky and they were all programming. So no one really knew what that is. So for me, it's quite a journey trying to get into that industry. Mm-hmm. And because I also love physicality of objects like toys, models, that kind of led me into computer animation because I could then actually make them in the computer. Does that kind of make sense? Like a 3D model.
It does.
Yeah.
So we have seen a lot of animated movies wherein we can see clay animation, then we have 2D animation, then we have 3D animation.
Yeah.
If I have to give an example, clay animations is more like Wallace and Gromit.
Yeah.
Then we have 2D animation like Spirited Away, like the Japanese movies that we have. Yeah. And then we have CGI and everything like Battle Angel, Alita Battle Angel, if that's a movie.
Yeah.
And Transformers, these are more like the live action animation that we have. So as a student, what do you think, according to you, what is the difference in these three types of animation? How does it impact? And what a student should be looking for when it comes to the future of animation in next 10 years?
They are just different techniques, different ways of working, because animation is animation, regardless whether you're going to do hand-drawn or is it digital animation, whether it's computer animation or stop motion, because it's just a different method of doing it. But I think for students, what's really important is to understand the core principle of the animation principles. There's like 12 animation principles they need to look into. Once you understand that, then it's a matter of how you apply it to drawing or to making a model, because they're all the same regardless. So then it's down to individuals, whether they want to pursue a career as a stop motion animator or someone who loves computer, then they would probably go into computer animation. But for our course anyway, or most courses, the emphasis is always on the foundation first. And once you understand that, then the rest is just application, really. Yeah.
Well, coming to radio. So radio has been the only source of information for a very long time before we got the television. And even today, while driving, my radio is on in the car. But apart from that, radio has kind of, it's behind the curtain or in the shadows right now. After the emerging technologies like television, then we have internet, so many ways through which people consume content. What do you think radio's future is in the years to come? And
that's a big question.
Let's address the elephant in the room first.
Well, look, I'm not worried because I tend to look at it as audio. Yeah. We're talking about animation. You've been discussing all these amazing films. Sound, as you will agree, is a huge component of those. Animation's amazing, but when you put the sound to it, the music, the voices, the sound effects, that's when it really comes to life. And what we teach is not just radio. We teach audio production. Podcasting is huge now and growing. So, radio, it's still powerful. It reaches millions of people every day. I love it. I grew up with it. But I'm not so old-fashioned to think that we need to stick with that model of it. I'm talking about audio. I'm talking about people talking, having conversations like we're doing now. That's always going to be powerful. And I'm sure the subject of AI is going to come back, and we're going to discuss that later. But for me, AI will never replace that human element of surprise, of conversation, of discovery, spontaneity. It can replicate it, but it can't actually. It's only ever drawing on models that have already been done, and the reality of what we're doing now, talking, finding out about each other, is really powerful. And to me, that's what radio is. It's communication. It's storytelling. It's compelling narratives. So this is what we're teaching students, the principles, these core principles of communication and telling great stories, whether you're doing it through animation or film, or you're doing it through audio production, or through your journalism, or public relations. These are all things that Birmingham City University teach. And we connect the dots between our specialisms as well. So we're not just sitting in these isolated little bastions. We're communicating between each other and giving students this opportunity to explore and learn the similarities, and also to find out what they're passionate about. So some of my students come to me wanting to be a radio presenter, and they leave being a podcaster. And this is a podcast, but we're filming it. So, all those boundaries are sort of blurring. So yes, I'm a big fan of radio. Yes, we do have students who are passionate about it. But for me, it's so much more than that these days.
Wow. Well, this reminds me of a movie by Robin Williams, wherein he is opening a radio show in Vietnam. Yeah. I think Good Morning Vietnam.
Good Morning Vietnam, yeah.
And the moment you mentioned AI can recreate something, I bet AI can't create it for the first time. It can only recreate it.
Radio is live. Like what we're doing, you're going to edit out
Right.
The bits when I start coughing or Kelvin's phone goes off or something. We're not going to see that. But with live radio, there's no safety net. And I think that's why people love radio so much. It's almost this subconscious fear of what's going to happen next. And I think that's really powerful as well, that spontaneity, that naturalness, that uniqueness that you can only get through a live broadcast. And on our media production course, we actually teach live studio production as a strand because I think it gets overlooked these days. So much of what we do is edited and chopped around or produced by AI, but a live broadcast has that danger, that risk, that threat, that I might jump up and I don't know what I might do, but you know,
there's a thrill in it. There's a thrill in it.
There's thrill. There's the unexpected.
The unexpected.
And there's a lot to be said for that. And I think that makes for really exciting media. And it's something that we at Birmingham City, we have these amazing studios that are designed for live production, whether that's audio or whether that's streaming on location or in a studio. We think that's still really important. So it's something that we build into our courses.
Could I add to that as
Please.
well? When you mention about facilities and how students are, lots of crossovers, and that's what's happened to our courses at BCU, where you kind of mentioned silo. We don't work as silo as well because students do work with other students from other courses as well at the same time. So, for instance, if students were to do filmmaking, animation, they don't just stick to their pathways. They do collaborate with film tech, or for example, animators would then need someone to score the music. Then they would actually get some music students to work with them in terms of scoring the track for them.
Right.
In fact, we even use your radio station as well because we got voice actors coming in, and we did recording for the voices for the characters. So, yeah, we kind of work a lot of collaboration between students and also staff as well.
And when you say music students,
yeah,
these are from the Royal Birmingham Conservatoire, which is a world-class institution teaching. I mean, those musicians are phenomenal. And so one of my students was making a short horror film. They collaborated with the composer. So again, they're not just saying, AI, write me a spooky music, or downloading something that was put on some sort of library. They're actually scoring and, say it's great, but can you slow it down here? Or I really need it to punch here. And that, learning from that sort of process is powerful, but what impact it gives to the final production is so powerful as well. It's really important. And, the acting students, they're phenomenal as well. They come from the Conservatoire. And the difference having a great actor can give to a script and really bring it to life. I'm sure your animation students find that with radio drama and with our television productions. Those opportunities to collaborate is something that you don't get at a lot of universities. So we're very proud of that at Birmingham City University.
So also everything is almost in-house, because again, filmmaking, you get the actors coming in from the School of Acting. So we got cast for it. But what's really important that we encourage students to actually use students to score, conservatoire to score the music, is because one thing we'll probably come to talk about later as well, the awards, is that you can't just rip a copyright music off somewhere else. And especially with festivals, they have to be copyright free as well. And with those, when you're working with a composer, then you're very, very sure those will be original tracks, and it's going to be tight for the films that they're going to be making.
So is there any way to check if the music has been plagiarized, or if any of the content is being reused or is available somewhere on the internet?
Well, the way we do it, we can't check everything, but what we want students to do is to document the processes. So when it comes to assessments, we're not just looking at final work. We want to see how you get from A to B and what are the steps that you've done in terms of ensuring that what you're doing visually and also in terms of, say, music and all. So we need to know where do they come from, what are the sources, where do they need to come from. We're not saying all tracks has to be original or been scored. But at least they have to tell us where it's come from. For instance, if it's copyright free, that's highly encouraged. We try to get students to put a popular track on it because that's not going to be used anywhere else because you can't publish it. So that's no good really, because the only time that you could put it is your own personal showreel, which no one else going to see it. So it's pretty pointless. So that's something we encourage students to actually do, is to make sure everything is copyright free, visually, and also ideation as well. So, yeah.
When we talk about animation, I was watching this documentary a few months back, and they mentioned something about the kind of technology that Disney used to use instead of the green screen that we have right now. So they used to use a combination of lights.
Yes, I think that's called Lightcraft.
I guess.
I think it's called Lightcraft. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, that is using LED screens behind. And
no, not the LED screen, which recently started with a few of Disney series. I'm talking about movies like Mary Poppins, like the older movies back in 70s and 80s.
Right.
And at that time, they were using a combination of light in I think yellow color light in the background, and the green screen that we use right now. That technology that they used to use at that time, that was far more advanced compared to the green screen that we're using right now, because there's a lot of editing required for the green screen, and the shadow effect and everything, and the blending options that we have with green screens are far more limited compared to what they used to do at that time. So have you heard about that?
I think that is probably almost like a layered effect. I think that's what you're talking about. I mean, we don't really use that technology now in that sense, because everything is more green screen now, and also what's now what they're doing is combining the games engine with the camera, so you're kind of capturing the 3D environment in real time,
like the Unreal Engine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that is something that is being used more and more now, because you could change the background immediately, and that's been reflected. I think The Mandalorian does that as well.
Mandalorian.
Yeah. So, and they're again using the Lightcraft technology where they have the screens behind, which is great because you don't really need to worry about lighting and trying to match the light, because the light from the panels would reflect the actual lights itself. But that uses the Unreal Engine. So again, technology keeps changing, and ways of approaching filmmaking, ways of approaching animation is always different. So,
can I just say, if you're mentioning green screen, the green screen we have at our Parkside campus is phenomenal. It's the largest purpose-built in UK higher education. Sony's hired it out. We get a lot of industry coming in using this equipment, and our students get to be runners on some of these productions as well. But the motion capture technology that they have, motion control is industry standard.
We have the Bolt motion control camera. So it's basically, if you don't know what that is, it's basically a camera on a track, and it's got a little arm, and it's quite small as well. So you could almost small. When I say small, what we had in the past was called Milo, which is like a huge crane. So this is a smaller one, which is a bit more portable. And what that does, it repeats the movement over and over again. So it's really important for, say, green screen, because if you're going to use a handheld camera, you can't have the same movement every time. But this is so precise, you could repeat the movement over and over again. And what's really useful for that is you can have what we call passes. So you could have, for example, an object on there. You film it once. You can have a different object. So what you can then do in VFX, you could kind of blend the objects, or have them come in with the same movement over and over again. So
something that we normally see in advertisements.
Mainly adverts. I think
it was first time recorded in Matrix Reloaded, wherein they had a panel of 50 or 60 cameras in one go. And I think that was the first time someone thought of this idea
Yeah.
And that's when we started working on this.
Yeah.
And now
The
we have
360.
Yeah, now we have the 360 camera.
Yeah.
The thing that gets me is that this technology that
Mhm.
Kelvin's talking about and this green screen, that's millions of pounds worth of equipment.
Yeah.
A first year student can hire that out. Yeah. So
Yeah.
our students can, after hours, after the classes are finished, can book it out and use this technology and make their own projects. So we encourage coursework, but also if you've got your own pet projects and things that you want to do, I think that's one of my main pieces of advice to students. If you come to us, take advantage of it. Use that stuff. I love it when security guards email me and say, I had to throw him out at the end of the day because he wouldn't leave. He was busy working on his video. And I say, great, good. That's what he should be doing. You want to be using this technology. These courses are not cheap. We understand that. But when students use these amazing green screens and audio studios and the cameras that they can hire out, that's when you get your money's worth and you make work, not because it's coursework, but because it's something you're passionate about and you want to be taking advantage of the tutors, the technology, all these facilities, these opportunities to collaborate, take that time and make some incredible work. Because at the end of the day, what I think Kelvin and I appreciate and why we do this job is to see what the students can come up with. And it's not about the coursework, it's about the ideas, the stories, the content that they create. That's what makes it so exciting for us.
And also, you're not just left to just use the studios or the cameras. There's technicians to help you.
Yeah.
And also, there are cameras which are very, very expensive. You get trained up on how to use the cameras. So we have the Blackmagic cameras. I think we have the Arri Alexa as well. So those are really, really expensive cameras. You get trained on it, and technicians will help you if you want to use the Bolt or if you want to use the green screen. Technicians are on site with you, with the students. Again, they're not just animation. For animation, it's like film students want to use the green screen, VFX students. We did have an animation student doing stop motion using the camera. And we were using it for a stereographic 3D stop motion. That was a lot of work because you got to film left eye and then the right eye. So the camera is going like that. Although the movement is quite small. It's moving left and then moving right, and that's one frame. And they moved the character a little bit, and the camera stepped a little bit, and it's go left, right. So it was there for 3 months.
Wow. I think I've seen these documentaries when they were recording Creature Comforts.
Yes.
And Shaun the Sheep.
Yeah.
And Wallace and Gromit, of course.
Exactly.
And it takes a lot of time and patience.
It does.
And if you miss one part, you have to re-record everything right from the beginning.
Yes.
If I'm not wrong.
Yeah. I mean, there's no going back.
There's no going back.
It's only moving forwards.
Change in expressions, the speed at which they're walking and recording all of that.
I remember one of the students were actually doing a character walking through a scene. Someone came in and accidentally kicked the light.
Oh my God.
Happens. You can't redo that. So he has to redo the whole shot again. But in saying that, he did say, well, the second time he's doing it was much better than the first time. So,
So is there any special kind of meditation that the students have to perform, or how do they practice patience in these kind of situations? I'm being honest with you. Need to understand.
It's trial and error, isn't it? For whatever subject you're studying, you're going to make mistakes. Things are going to go wrong. I always tell my students to expect that, to prepare for, because and that's an interesting point. I think that idea of facing challenges or issues. We don't mark you down for that sort of thing. If you're studying a specialism, it's almost better if something goes wrong, because university is all about demonstrating learning.
Right.
Tell us what you learned. How did you learn from this experience? And if you can identify a problem, and then crucially, identify a strategy so that next time around, what would you do differently? How could you improve your performance? And if you can do that, then you're learning something. And that's crucial to a university experience, wherever you choose to go. It's about self-awareness, self-reflection, being able to say, I'm really proud of this, but next time around, I need to work on my audio production, or the lighting's not so good, or and if you can sort of look at your work and see where you need to go next, or where you need help from the technicians or the staff or whatever, that's crucial. If you can do that, you're in a good place.
That's the process that we are marking, isn't it? So on the learning outcomes, there's nothing to say the final piece of work. Rarely you have that kind of learning outcomes. It's more of the journey of the student to reach the final outcome.
Yeah, and interestingly, even if your documentary or your animation or whatever it is you're making doesn't go to plan and is a disaster for whatever reason, you can still pass if you can show what you learned from it.
Right.
And as I say, identify what you need to do to go forward. That's where the marks come from.
Exactly. Yeah.
This strangely reminds me of one of the Japanese, tradition, we can say, or Japanese culture called Kaizen.
Oh, yeah.
So that means continuous improvement.
Yeah.
And whenever you work on something, don't say that it's the final product.
Yes.
There's always scope of improvement.
Yeah. Well, Kelvin and I feel confident to say we're still learning in our respective fields. There's new technologies that come out, but more than that, editorial approaches. You should never be comfortable, and you should always be seeking inspiration or seeing somebody else, whether it's an old master or somebody young who's coming up, that you go, I never thought of that. That's really interesting. What can I take from that and apply to my own work? So, as exciting as new technologies are, for me, it's about ideas, what other people are doing, and being able to identify people who are creating new approaches or looking at it from a different perspective. And I think that's what, as teachers, we really enjoy, having these new students coming through and challenging our own approaches and us learning from it. So you never stop learning.
Yeah. Well, we learn from students, don't we?
We do, yeah.
And they learn from us. So it's a two-way.
Yeah.
It's a never-ending process.
Now, which is why, I guess that's why we're in education, I guess. It's quite exciting. We're not just passing on the knowledge as well, but in the process of sometimes ideas coming from students and how they work kind of also inspire us as well sometimes.
So is that the reason why both of you moved to education from your original profession? And how did the transition happen?
Right. For me, when I was an animator, this was in Malaysia, because I come from Malaysia, but then I moved to the UK. But when I was an animator in Malaysia, I realized there weren't a lot of good animators then coming out, because we were interviewing people for the studio, and the work wasn't really up to par as how we wanted it to be. So I was young, and a bunch of us animators were having the same, we had the same thought, and say, why don't we come out and start a new college? It's a bit risky, but hey, we were young. We'll take risks. And we actually started a college, an animation visual effects college. But at the same time, it's not just a college. We were also a production house as well. So we actually do production on the side. And we got students to get involved whilst they were learning in the production. So, that's how I kind of got into education that way.
So what happened to the college?
Well, I did it for a few years, but then I wanted to go back into industry. So I came out of it, and I started a studio with a colleague of mine, and that studio is still running. Not sure what happened to the school, because I haven't been in touch with them. So I know that it has been sold off to some other establishment. That's as far as I know. But the studio that I started back then is still running strong now. But then I got called into BCU, or what we used to be called UCE back then, University of Central England, before we changed the name to Birmingham City University. And they said, well, do you we're looking for an animator. Would you want to come and teach? I think I had enough industry, so I just went back into teaching and back into the UK now. Yeah.
It's interesting. Kelvin's from Malaysia. I'm from New Zealand originally.
Wow.
And we were drawn to the United Kingdom because it is such a great country for media and creative arts. As much as we love our respective countries, for me to be in a country with the BBC and all those amazing institutions is really exciting, and being able to hear and engage and have those people come in and speak to our students. In terms of a transition, for me, it wasn't one or the other. I still have the opportunity within my university work to produce podcasts and documentaries for industry. So I still produce freelance content, and that feeds into my classroom, and it feeds into my research as well. So there's this really nice mixture that I can still create content for radio stations, and that's great to be able to look at new trends and commissioning processes and real world practice and be able to bring that to students, because that's something that BCU, Birmingham City University, takes incredibly serious: employability. I come back to this again. It's expensive. Yeah. Universities are not cheap. You need a return on your investment. And so we really put a lot of effort and build it into the DNA of our courses, that you're making contacts, that you're building your CV, that you're building a professional online profile. You're doing all these things as part of your course, so that when you leave, you're transitioning or exiting straight into industry wherever possible. We have very good records in terms of students getting into jobs. For me, my practice as a professional, industry professional, and as an academic, it's not one or the other. I continue to do both. And even when I was working in industry, I would still be teaching as part of that. So, I think if you love what you do, you want to pass that on. It's kind of what, inspires us. But again, it's a really nice thing to be able to be promoting the employability aspect of it, and to have new students coming through and inspiring us.
I mean, most staff are industry based anyway, and most of them are still in the industry, whether through freelance or through research itself. And that's great, because we are always keeping on top of what's out there at the same time. And for students that they've got this confidence that the staff that's teaching on the course, they are relevant to what the industry is doing at the same time. So time to time, we do have projects that we work on. And also sometimes studios comes in to approach the university and say, well, we want to use the facilities here, but then we will have to get the students involved with the projects. So, and that's where professional practice comes in, where they get real life projects. They're not just make-believe projects, So some of the projects could be live briefs, live competition briefs, or working with studios themselves. So studios do actually come in and say, we need so-and-so. Could you provide some students for that to help out? So,
and in terms of guest speakers in your career sphere, having industry come in and share their knowledge, it's a really important part of what we do. And alumni, ex-students, who have gone on into industry, come back and say, I was sitting where you are now. This is what I wish I'd known then. This is what, and it's all very well for us to be talking, but sometimes to have a student or somebody who's just fresh into the industry give a real immediate overview is very powerful. Inspirational. That's
So how do we stay updated when it comes to emerging technologies and at the university, and how do we integrate that in the learning culture that we have at BCU?
Well, one thing would be, we'll talk about AI, right? That's everywhere now.
That's
right?
everywhere.
So, emerging technology is always changing, especially animation. It's so fast. You think you know one thing, the next week is something new, and it's just it can be scary. But I guess with how we approach it, we have to embrace it whether you like it or not. Some people really detest AI. I understand that as well. But for me, I think it's how you actually, these are all tools, right? It's how you could use these tools to help you, right? AI could be good if you use it well, and it can be really bad in a sense. But for example, a lot of people are going to say, well, you're going to lose your job because of AI, right? Animation, filmmaking. Yes and no to a degree, I would say. It's like when computers came out, right? When computers came out, then I'm just saying animation, right? When computers came out, 2D is going to die because CGI is going to take over. Yes, 2D kind of went off a little bit for a couple of years. But then there were too many CGI animation film, and it becomes saturated. And to be honest, you don't even want to watch some of them because it's samey. It's the same. Look the same, feel the same, story's the same. And then if you notice, last maybe 4 or 5 years, there were a lot of episodic 2D animation that's coming back. And, 2D is not dead. It's back, There's a lot more. They embrace it a little bit more. And also what I find really interesting as well, people eventually, because of all this AI, you kind of know it's kind of plasticky, and people are starting to appreciate handmade things. They're starting to appreciate the authenticity of hand-drawn, for example, on paper or being made, So I would say, some industry will probably slow down, but I think there will be a bit more appreciation for the human touch, if there is too much AI. It would definitely, if you use it well, definitely would help. I mean, I do embrace that in our work. For example, when I was showing students were showing me some of the drawings in character design. I say, well, it doesn't look quite right proportion wise. And I'm explaining it, why is it wrong? And I said, oh, we could use AI to do a 360 turnaround. And immediately I took a photo, and a couple of seconds, it does a quick turnaround, and immediately you can see where the errors are. Yeah, so that is a useful way of using integration of AI into, a hand-drawn piece of work. So I'm not asking students to generate something new, but they generate something from their own idea and use AI to help inspire them. But what we don't encourage students to do is to produce a final piece of work purely on AI. Yeah.
For me, I wouldn't get too hung up on the technology. As Kelvin said, technologies come and go. If you want to learn a particular piece of software, that's what YouTube's for. You can watch an online tutorial. That's not what university's about for me. We can teach you a program, and obviously that's part of what we do. But the important thing is the understanding, the deeper learning, so that you're future-proofed, so that technologies come and go. But what you have that no technology has is a deep understanding of your industry, where it's come from, where it is now, where it could be going. This is why theory and research is an important part of what we do. It's built into it. It's not just pressing buttons and running around with microphones or, there's a deeper learning that we try to give the students to give them those future-proof skills. So technology is great, but I would rather that you were paying attention to people who inspired you, watching a young upstart production company and seeing who's, who started that and where were they before. Those are the sorts of deep dives that you should be doing, and, following career progress rather than a particular technology. I think that's a false narrative in some respects.
Yeah.
I think it's important to look at the technology, but I would say watch the key players. The other thing I would say is maybe join a society or a group, to be networking, to be building contacts, right? Because those sorts of mentorships are going to serve you so well. And the other thing I'd say is make content.
Yeah.
You don't need a university course to do that. You know, you can be making something and learning from that on your own. And you don't need permission to be a producer or an animator. You can do it because every time you do it, you get that much better.
Yeah.
So, and we love that when it comes to personal statements for students to apply and say, I started my own YouTube channel, I've been making my own podcast, I made a short animation. That's the stuff that we go, great, they're serious about it. They're committed to it. And you know, that's something that might tip over, you know, somebody that we're not sure about their grades or whatever. It's commitment, it's passion, it's enthusiasm that we're really, really looking for.
True.
Yeah, passion is great, isn't it? That's what you need. I mean, you don't have to be good at it, but if you're passionate about it, then you'll be good at it eventually.
Yeah.
The more you do it.
The other word that I would say is curious.
Yeah.
I want curious students who want to find out, why is that? How did that happen? You know, who is that person? You know, I want to tell a story about this. I want to share this or something. And, you know, if you don't have curiosity, you're going to struggle, I think, because you can't just sit there. You need to be actively seeking, finding out.
So you've written a book, music documentary for radios. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, well, it's the culmination of probably over a decade of work. So it's not a text-heavy research book. It's more of a practice-based book. It's actually based on my PhD as well, which was looking at you know, music documentaries specifically. And my personal interest is in radio, commercial radio. But again, it's about storytelling, and it's about doing that through sound. And the similarities between a music documentary for television or film or on Netflix or on radio, you know, there's a lot of the same components that you hear, you know, how to hold an audience's interest. You know, you're using music, you're using interviews, you're using archival footage. How do you mix those together to create a compelling story? So it's really a journey of my experiences from making documentaries when I wasn't in academia, just as a professional, sort of making them as best I could, and then going into academia and thinking, well, why am I doing it this way? And is there another approach? And what do other people say about interviewing or editing or use of music? And then taking what I'd learnt and putting that into a final product. So yeah, it's a from a real world perspective. It's talking about the practical requirements of making media content and looking ahead. So so for me, it was a really great way to look back on that period of my career, and also feed that into my classroom opportunities with students.
Well, I'm completely speechless. I was thinking of a question, but now I'm completely in the music part and the storytelling. And you know, this reminds me of something. I was watching. There was this movie, Inception, by Christopher Nolan, one of the best directors that I know of. And one of the media personalities asked him a question that, do you feel that people would not understand your movie when you make one? And he replied very humbly that if they do not understand the movie, then it's a failure on my part. Because as a storyteller, as a movie maker, I should be able to create content for all ages. And if they watch it from the first frame till the last, they should be able to understand it. So how does it translate into education? Like, how do you put this information across for students, and how do students adapt to these kind of things wherein they don't focus on failure, rather the way we were talking just now, that there should be continuous improvement and they should be curious. What if a student is not cut from the same cloth, or he or she is not ready for the creative industry, but they have a creative streak, but they don't have the patience or the curiosity to develop their skills in the right direction, or channelizing their creativity in the right direction? So how do you handle these kind of students? Do we have had these kind of students?
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, you got students coming in where they know what they want to do, right? You have those students. You got some which is not quite sure. They're still exploring, which is fine. I think that's also important. And also you got very strong students, you got very weak students, and you got somewhere in the middle. Now, the thing is on the course, so I can speak for animation, for example, might be the same for yours. Although students coming in wanting to be an animator, right? For our course is mainly character animation, performance-based animation. Now, not everyone will be a character animator because it's difficult. And some people would not just understand body mechanics, okay? Now, there is other options for students to get into. For example, some students might be very good at character design, they could be very good story artists, or storyboard artists, or storyteller. So they could, in the final year, they could actually specialize in those areas. So it's not just because you can't animate doesn't mean you're not good at doing other things. So we do encourage students, and this is when our guidance comes in, to try to find what they're good at and then try and nurture them in terms of those pathways. So if you can't do this, don't continue forcing your head into it. Try that. Why don't you try it different ways, different approach to what they do best, And sometimes you get pretty good, interesting results out of those, because you might not even thought, oh, hang on, that's an interesting way of approaching that piece of work. For example, one of our students, he was quite good in terms of drawing, but it's quite quirky drawing, quite interesting, quite creative, very unconventional. Then we said, well, why don't you try doing or experiment with lino cut? So lino cut is basically you draw on a piece of what do you call those? A sheet. And when you do your transfer, then you start cutting it out, and then you print them. So you can't do frame by frame animation using that technique. It's tedious, but the results are really interesting. So it's quite unconventional, but he really enjoyed it because, he do like the hand process of doing lino cuts. It's like wood, right?
You get that.
So you start carving out, you get the relief, and you print. So you do that frame by frame. Tedious, but
how long did that take?
A long time. A very long
That's
time.
something new. I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing something like this.
Yeah, and we got students doing. She won an award for the Royal Television Society Awards, and what she's done. I mean, typical students want to do stop motion animation, and she did stop mo and wasn't very good. And we thought, well, why don't you try this way of working instead? She's quite good at 2D. Why don't you do some 2D instead? You could still keep your element of stop mo, but would be the background. So your 2D drawing would be your hand-drawn animation. So what she's done then, she did all the animation, frame by frame, hand-drawn. Then she printed out all the frames and then laser cut all the characters. And then because you got little sheets of them, you put them into the physical set, and then you take photo frame by frame. So it's like a 2D.
Something like South Park?
Yeah.
Not exactly, but
not exactly, but you get the idea. So the background is physical model, but your hand drawn is in the physical model. So it's a long process, but it's I won't say unusual. It's been done before, but it's a learning process for the student. And because of that as well, the story is good, the technique is different, and hence she won the Royal Television Society Awards because it's quite unique. It's not doing what other students are doing, and also nurturing that. If she continue doing stop mo for the whole piece, it won't work as well as it's intended to be.
Yeah, so. If you don't have the curiosity, if you're struggling, you're not certain, my answer from a media production point of view would be, don't beat yourself up. Use university as an opportunity to find that. You've still got to be hungry. But I think the interesting thing about media especially is that it's so transferable. The skills you're learning there can be applied to so many different businesses. And we've got students who go into employability, but they're not necessarily working for a television company or a podcasting independent production studio or something. They're in a wide range of different roles and a wide range companies, and they understand target audience. They understand, branding. They understand marketing. They understand so many different ideas that come into media production that you can apply. So you might not have a clear end goal, but you can move around within that with those skills that you have. Kelvin talked about the guidance and support that the university offers as well. And Birmingham City University has an excellent careers team and graduate team that guide you through. And even after you leave the university, for up to 5 years, you can still have access to these people who will be working with you, looking at your CV, your cover letters, these sorts of things, giving you advice, tutorials and mentorship opportunities to help you find a way to kind of sell your skills to industry. So we're really proud of that. And the other thing I wanted to say was about awards, that we really encourage students to be entering competitions. We've had students do particularly well in various media awards, and each of those students who's won an award, they get a job in industry because it's something that sets them apart. It's something on their CV that just stands them apart from the rest. So it makes us look good as an institution, but more importantly, it's something that those students can take. It gives them a sense of pride. Even to be nominated is an amazing achievement. So we really do encourage students and help them through those processes to get recognition for their work.
Wow. And what kind of jobs are we helping students with at VCU? Do we have a placement opportunity, and the type of industries we are working with, or are there any specific names or brands that VCU has collaboration with?
We've had students go into the BBC, Sky Television in the UK. There's numerous companies, but what I'm saying is, alongside those are just small independent outfits and public relations companies, small newspapers, websites, whatever. Students are going in, and you just need to get your foot in the door.
Right.
If you can get that first job, it might not be, head of production, might just be a runner or a researcher. But once you've made that from student into industry, that's so much easier to move around once you're in that position. And this is true for animation. I'm sure that getting a job at Disney for the rest of your life, that's not going to happen.
No.
You're moving around, you're building up your CV, you have 12 months here, you have a year or 2 years here, whatever. You're constantly moving, on the move. That's expected by industry. And that's the fun part as well, because you don't know where you're going to go next. So it's exciting, but it's something that we take seriously and prepare students for, and build placement opportunities actually into the course.
We did mention just now as well in terms of studios coming to approach us, and that's one way of students getting those network opportunities. Also guest speakers as well, and sometimes I think what we try to encourage students to actually speak to them, because a lot of time they kind of be a little bit afraid, and that's when the guest speakers comes in. It's a little bit more like a informal chat, isn't it? Because for them, I think for students, sometimes they see this is unattainable at that level. You can't touch them. But to be honest, most of them are really helpful to students. They do want to help the students because they've been in their shoes before, and they know how tough it is, especially now, a bit more competition. But what's really important is that it's for students to be really proactive as well. I mean, opportunities are there, but they have to go and approach them. And I think what's really important is that you put a face to a name as well. Because sometimes you could be out, getting your CVs, your work out there, but they don't really know who you are. And this is when networking, going to festivals, might not happen immediately, but at least they'll remember your name and your face as well. And then when that opportunity comes, they go like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that face, and that's when people, it's all about connection, really. It's all about networking and putting yourself out there. And those are usually the most successful one, isn't it? Yeah.
So, which are some of the most unique but relevant jobs, or you can say professions, which students can land into after completing course from BCU, specifically in media and technology? So, the reason why I'm asking you this question is because in India, there are students who have completed courses in printing technology, and they are working with the government in identifying fake currencies. So that is the most, completely out of the box thinking that this is the kind of job you can land after you've completed course in printing technology. That too, a dying, art or dying sector that we have, print media for now. So this is a completely relevant but completely, out of the box job that students can land into. So when it comes to animation or radio, what job do you think is completely relevant, but people have still not thought of, or they can actually tap into that? I know it's a very interesting question.
Yeah, I mean, it's everybody's different. I mean, there's traditional roles like production assistants, runners, researchers. I think the thing that we've not really talked about is freelance as well, that actually you might not go into a big company. You might just set yourself up. We do sessions on freelancing, how you do the tax, simple things like that. But that's becoming increasingly, common for students to not have to go to a company, but to establish themselves as a production entity that hires themselves out. So, yeah, there's traditional roles, there's creative roles, there's jobs that haven't even been invented yet that my first years will be doing when they leave. And we don't know what it is. It comes back to that idea of preparing them, not just technically, but about attitudes and knowledge and a hunger to learn more. I think that's really important. So yeah, it's hard to be precise about particular roles because they're constantly changing. But I think the freelance one is becoming more and more, common for students.
Yeah, I mean, interesting question as well, because I mean, just based on experiences as well. For instance, when I went to McKinnon Saunders, they are a stop motion puppet company. They make puppets. They make maquettes as well, and armatures. So armatures are basically skeleton for the puppets, so they can move and everything. And you would think, animators would probably go in there and be puppet makers, but they're not. They students of school jewelry will be working in there because they're very precise with tools, and they fabricate specific parts in the armature, which animators won't do. So you know what I mean? So for students, you might think, school jewelry, you'd be making jewelry, but then they'd be working in animation studios. So they do cross path, I guess. I mean, for students, I won't discount the idea of other industries. And that's from my personal experience as well. I mean, I knew I wanted to be an animator. I knew I wanted to be a computer animator. But I started doing other things as well. And I went on to do architectural visualization, which my dad and parents didn't really want me to get into, nothing to do with architecture. That's a different subject. But then I, kind of got involved in that and got into interior design as well. And then I got into theater as well, making work for theater. So yeah, you never know what your path's going to be. You think that's what you're going to do, but progressively as you go on through life, you start to find what you're really interested in, and that's what you would pursue, I guess. But the core thing would still be there, because my when I studied, it was foundation. So I not foundation, but the core principle of design. I did graphic design, by the way. That was my degree. But I've got, it's building those core strong foundation beforehand, and the rest are just techniques and tools, right? It doesn't matter animation or graphic design or illustration, but they're just tools to tell a story. This is how you develop those tools as you go along. So that's why our courses, especially in the first year, is very much focused on the core principles, and going back, understanding history of things, understanding, again, design principles. So, for example, animation, we got the animation principles. Film, we got the film language. So it's understanding all of this beforehand, before you start playing with the toys, really. Yeah.
So this reminds me again, I'm just getting back to Inception,
Yes.
because when he was, I like watching movies a
Sure,
lot,
yeah.
and that teaches us a lot. And when I was asking the question about different types of job opportunities which are relevant, I feel a creative person can fit in anywhere because he's creative. He can create a job for himself anywhere in any industry, just like Steve Jobs. He was a creative person, and after that, he was one of the pioneers of animation. Starting Pixar and Star Wars were produced through his design computers. So you can't just question a creative person, or you can't just put him on a path and make him walk that path in a straight line. So in the movie, he's creating a world in the dream, and he's hiring architects. So when you mentioned that you studied architecture a little bit and a little bit of interior design before getting into animation completely.
Well, I didn't really study interior design. I graphic design as well studying.
Okay.
Somehow there was a market for architectural rendering.
Like AutoCAD?
AutoCAD. And we weren't really using AutoCAD. We don't know how to use AutoCAD. Okay. We were using Studio Max and Maya back then, and Softimage. And we were rendering high quality renderings for it. So we have no idea how to read plans at all, right? But then we knew there was a market for it, and there's a demand for print as well, because brochures and fly-throughs, architectural walkthroughs and fly-throughs. And I was still quite keen. I love interior design. I love beautiful spaces and how you can make the best out of the space itself. So we approach architects and design houses as well, and just offer these services for them. And they liked what they saw, and that's how we started. Well, our business really back then. This was back then. So it's a bit of dabble and everything, because my background was, when I was in production, I was doing TV commercials, characters in TV commercials, jingles, that kind of stuff you see on TV. But your path do change. I mean, we still do that stuff, but at the same time, we were also expanding towards interior and also towards architecture as well. So. Yeah, the path changes all the time.
Path changes.
Yeah, I mean, I was trained as a 3D animator, but now I do 2D animation as well.
The reason why I'm asking this question is because even if the path has changed, the information or the knowledge that you gained on that path will help you on this path, because when you're creating an image or you're creating a scene, an animated scene, the knowledge of interior design or the knowledge of architecture is going to help you.
Yes.
Design buildings or design interiors in the animation. I mean, that's what I was
for sure.
asking you.
That's for sure. Again, having no knowledge to having some knowledge, which was interesting, because then the architects were asking our opinion on the design language of some of the buildings, which we think, oh, that's quite an honor. Because, not having an understanding of architecture, we now know how to read plans and elevations and stuff like that. So, I think that's really important. I mean, each project that you take on, you learn something from it. Every project is going to be different. I mean, when I got involved in theater, I know nothing about theater production, and now I know how it kind of works on the inside. And so, I mean, for students themselves, it will be a lifelong learning journey for them. And they'll pick up little knowledge on each project, whether it's relevant or you think it might be relevant, but at some point it will come back and it will help you. Yeah. I mean, for us, we have to really study that subject matter quite in detail. Because if you're gonna do animation on something, you have to really study it.
Mm-hmm.
I did an animation on skeleton. I have to study all the body parts and how many bones and what's called and everything. So, I mean, if you ask someone to go study that, it's like, why?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you got a project, then it makes sense to really study the subject matter in detail and
Research.
understand it.
I think it's
That's
more
where
about
it
being curious
yeah.
and
yeah.
having a curious nature.
Yeah.
Wherein you start exploring everything and anything,
Exactly.
like why this flower is shaped like
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
and why the color is like this, and
Yeah.
if it grows like this, what will happen? If I keep it inside, how is it going to impact? And
Yeah.
it's just a curious nature.
Yeah.
And this brings me to the next, interesting question. Because recently I was watching I was reading some news that most of the media houses, the production houses, are now being controlled by the MBA holders rather than being controlled by the creative people. So we used to watch movies, we used to watch documentaries, we are used to watching content on the OTT platforms these days, on Netflix, on Amazon Prime. But these media houses are controlled by people who have MBA degree, but probably not a media degree.
Mhm.
And their decision in deciding on what content should go online and what not is completely based on the popularity and the chances of that content making millions on that particular platform. Do you feel that because of this, we may be losing on a lot of quality content or a lot of creative content which could be in our reach by today, and how much we could have missed? And how is BCU supporting students, or do we have any kind of facility wherein we are producing our own shows or movies and giving chances to students, or maybe in sound engineering or something like that?
You got to scratch radio.
Yeah, I mean, my answer to that is that actually that challenge is an opportunity, in that with these huge international streaming companies and the content they produce for mass markets, the need and the desire for niche original content is actually increased. And so, for me, if a student says, I want to make a project that's, like a Netflix series, or I want to make my own superhero podcast or something, then I'll say, why? Because there's millions, there's so much of that content out there. Far better to tell your own story, to tell something unique, small, that you can do in such a way that nobody else could do, and get recognition for that. Like the awards that Kelvin was talking about. You make something small, and you manage to leverage that. You do it small, but you do it well, but it's quirky, it's original, it's different from all these other things. And actually, that's going to get you the recognition. So don't try and be like anybody else. Try and be like you. It sounds like a cliche, but it is so true. We've already got these great presenters, whether it's in India or in America or England, who have their personality, and then people try and copy that personality. It's like, no, that's already there. Your strength is who you are, and empower yourself to do something small and original, but do it well, and use that to get recognition for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, definitely agree with you on that one. Because it's all about numbers, isn't it? The bigger the studios are, it's about the return of investment, and less risk is being taken, I would say, especially with films these days. They're more, there's a formula to it, into the storytelling. You kind of know what's coming these days, because we are all kind of expecting the unexpected, I guess. Hence the again, what Sam has mentioned. We encourage students to be to be brave. To be brave. Festivals are a great thing because you get to see things that it's not commercial.
Right.
Festivals. We have like little independent festivals in Birmingham. And we encourage students to always go out there. And those independent festivals, they're not like controlled by a big entity and all. They are like, I mean, for example, Overlap Social, right? Is It's an animation festival, and it's a small one. It's run by one of the animators in Birmingham, and decided to do this. So I believe it's every month that he kind of get people together, and it doesn't be animators, filmmakers, and all. It's more like a little networking thing, and you don't even need to have a complete film. It could be something that you're working on. Maybe it could be a 5-second thing, and you just show it, and you just quickly talk about it, and that gives you opportunity, students, professionals, to have a little discussion, and maybe something would come out from it, out of those little clips. Usually, it's all about knowing the people, and the creative industry is usually quite fun. The people are quite fun. They're willing to help one another, develop new ideas, and so on. So you have the corporate world, but then there is also the more smaller but more creative side of things. So yeah, depending where you'll be going, I guess. Some people love the big studio, some love the smaller independent studio.
So how do small independent studios translate into a kind of a wholesome profession, or a wholesome kind of business for students, or for aspiring directors, aspiring filmmakers? So how does that translate? Because again, the kind of audience who's watching these kind of film festivals and these kind of movies is very limited.
Yeah.
And the limited the audience, the less money the producer is making, the less money the filmmaker is making. So how do students benefit, and how do they move? Because at the end of the day, they have to earn a bread.
Yeah.
It's not just about making movies, but also asking people to watch your movies over and over again, so that they can start making money. So this brings me to the next question. There is a concept in psychology called the Peter Principle. I'm sure you guys must have heard about it. So the idea of Peter Principle is that if I am, let's say, an animator, okay, and I'm excellent at my job, my boss will promote me, but I may not be an excellent people management person. And despite of being the best animator, I may lack with the skills required to manage people, and I may lose the job at that stage. So how does it work in your industry? And are we incorporating any kind of additional courses or any kind of additional modules in the course wherein students are learning about management and tips and tricks, how to manage people and how to grow in an organization? Because 90% of students would eye for a corporate environment, and only 10%, I feel, would stick to the creative side and start do something on their own, and just walk a path of their own.
Sure.
It's self-awareness, isn't it? In many respects. Like, why would you take that job if you had no self-awareness that you weren't good with people? You would hope that they would have that. But in our courses, and I'm not sure, I'm imagining you have teamwork.
Yes.
So we build that in. Now, some students love teamwork. They're great in a team. Some students aren't, but we make them do it anyway. They're not going to fail the course if they don't enjoy it, but they need to have an appreciation of what it's like to work in a team environment to kind of counteract the problem that you were just discussing. So, again, a student might not enjoy it or be good at it, but they will learn from it. And it's only a small part of the course, and you can reflect on it and say why you didn't enjoy it. But if you know that about yourself, and you can maybe take steps, because we'll help you along the way. We don't just say work as a team. We look at principles of what takes good communication between members, having respect for other members, recognizing strengths and weaknesses, these sorts of things. So we'll arm you for that. It's what you're talking about, human resources skills within a media or an animation context, because it is very important. But we try and give the students those tools before they go into industry, so they can have that deeper self-awareness of what they're good at and what they're not good at, and then give them an opportunity to try and build those skills if it's something that they think's a problem, not only in the class but with our student support team.
Well, come to a point, collaboration. We do have, I'm not sure if we got collaborative module.
Yeah.
So it is part of module. It's all about collaboration. It's really important that students don't just collaborate amongst themselves, but also across departments as well, working with other students. That's when we did talk about, students having to approach school of acting, school of conservatoire, just to, and this is where the people skills come in, where they can manage people, manage the team. I mean, not all students are great at it, which is all right.
I think in this day and age, it's easy for us to kind of sit on our laptops late into the night working away on things and actually to make a lot of progress. But that said, to be brave enough to seek feedback, and it is really important that I think you share your ideas, and you might kind of be a bit shy and kind of want to keep them to yourself. But actually, if you do open up, then somebody might say, "That's great, but did you think about that?" And you go, "Oh my God, that unlocks the whole thing. That's so much better. Thank you so much." That idea to brainstorm and collaborate can give so much to your work, not just amongst students, but amongst your tutors. Like, you've got access to these great tutors, so why wouldn't you use them and say, "Here's what I've been working on. What do you think?" And I guarantee you, no staff member at BCU will turn that down, because when you're asked for your feedback, it's great. You feel appreciated. Can you have a look at this? Sure. You want to see what the student's working on, and you want to be encouraging, but you also want to say, "There's an edit point 2 minutes in. I think you might want to look at that." And I think that's really powerful, that rather than submit your work and have the tutor say, "Your lighting's no good," after you've done it, it's too late then. You want to be seeking feedback throughout your course, so you can say, "If you change this, it's going to be that much better." Or, "Here's your written work. Yeah, your conclusion's a bit weak. You might want to itemize what you've actually learned from it," or whatever. Then you mark it once that's been done. And I think that's the other thing about seeking feedback from industry as well. Like, not just from your tutors, not just from your fellow students, but actually go out and say, "I'm a big fan of your work. Would you mind listening to a bit of this interview and give me your thoughts on it?" Members of industry love that. It's flattering to be asked for those sorts of things. But, then to recreate your work based on that sort of industry feedback. We love that as tutors. We'll give you extra marks for that, because you're looking beyond the university, you're engaging with industry, and you're acting on that feedback. That's the golden sort of collaborative equation. So we would always encourage that.
Yeah, going above
and beyond.
The given brief,
And that also shows how curious or how forward the student is, how much they want to learn and how much they want to capitalize on this particular opportunity, sitting with industry leaders and educators who have so much to teach and who have so much to share.
And being vulnerable to open yourself up to that. True. It's not easy. It's easy enough just to do your work, submit it, get your feedback, But if you can actually reach out and show other people, in both our industries, we make it for audiences. People are going to view it. That's the whole idea, or listen to it. So you've got to get over that, I'm too shy, and start sort of sharing it with people. And if you can't share it with those people around you, how are you going to share it with, a million people out there? It's an interesting
I think it's important that the students do not be afraid to accept critique, because it's nothing personal. I think what students really need to understand, that we're all trying to make the work better. And it's not about you. I think that's really important, because sometimes they feel they're being attacked when they give feedback, but it's not about that. It's about how to improve the work that you're making. And I think it's about that, isn't it? When students come on to HE, and that's something that they need to learn, and slowly they would, isn't it? Taking that critique, because a lot of time they would think, I'm just afraid to show because they might think it's not good. I think that's a good thing. If it's not good, then how are we going to improve it? But if you don't talk about it, then it would remain as it is. So,
well, this reminds me of something really interesting. You have been working for good 20, 25, 30 years, and you have seen through two different generations transitioning from millennials to Gen Z.
Yeah.
So when it comes to feedback, when it comes to the creative level, or when it comes to the curiosity, the curious mind, what difference did you find in both the generations? And when it comes to feedback, how open were millennials, or how open are Gen Zs for feedback? And like, how does it? What do you think about that? Maybe I have not phrased the question in
What
the
a
right
great
way.
question. Has it changed, Kelvin?
For me, it kind of blends. I wouldn't say like, this sponge and then this sponge.
Mhm.
It kind of blends everything.
It's more like aging. You don't see yourself aging, but
No.
when you meet someone after 20 years, you see,
Yeah,
"Hey, you
I
have
still
aged."
feel I'm 20.
So that's what I'm thinking of.
I don't know. I think we're lucky in that we have very specific areas that we teach, and the
Mhm.
students that we have love their fields. Otherwise, they wouldn't be at higher education. So for me, if I'm teaching about presentation skills, that doesn't change. And even the students who love that, they've always had that passion and enthusiasm for being a personality and sharing that. So yeah, I don't know. In terms of the feedback, I don't know if students read the feedback so much anymore, and you try to encourage.
We do try to encourage them, but they do look at the grades first.
Yeah, that's true.
And then, why did I get that grade? Then I'll look at the feedback. I don't think there's a big change in that sense. They still remain curious. I think that's a good thing,
The reason why I'm asking these questions is because in the industries and in a lot of corporate culture, people are afraid of hiring Gen Zs,
Right.
because the kind of the vibe that they have, or the kind of work culture that they want to move to, want to move the industry to, in a way. So I was thinking to ask this question to you guys, that how is Gen Z in as a student, because that is the foundation of the work culture in a way. And now that BCU is also involved in making students industry ready. So how does that transition work, and what steps are we taking?
I think they're far more aware students these days. I'm trying to think about what my response would be, and I think a student back in the turn of the century, at the start, it seems like such a weird phrase, but that's the reality of it. It was a less fragmented market, and students' attention wasn't as there wasn't as much competition for their attention, and the work that they created was influenced by a far less catchment, I guess, of content. So students these days face far more pressure, I would say, and scrutiny, and just in what they've coming out of the back of COVID as well. If we want to go there, that's really affected students, some students' ability to, with the teamwork and those sorts of things. So yeah, things change, but I think that the students today, and they have an appreciation of media that I never had, and my early students never had. They have very good. Can I swear on this? Is that possible? They have bullshit detectors that are very attuned to spotting what's authentic and what isn't. And that authenticity, I think students today are very good at being able to pick when something's false and something's real and meaningful. And so I wouldn't question them. Students of all ages have strengths and weaknesses. It's not any worse. It's not any better. It's just different. But I think that attuneness to the mass media marketplace and the avalanche of content. Students are very good now at being able to navigate their way through that and see what's good and what's not so good. That I think is different and is a good thing.
Well, it's more platform for them to explore now.
Yeah, that's true.
So I would say, I guess there's different avenues of how they could make a career out for themselves. Gone are the days where, doing nowadays. I guess, there is you go to the studio and you work in the studio, but these days, do you even need that? I guess in some ways you could set it up at home, and because of technology, it's a lot quicker, a lot simpler to achieve that. And yeah, I guess the avenue of you publishing your work it's a lot easier now. I mean, with YouTube, anyone could make content for it now. And it's interesting that you mentioned that being real. My students, well, not my students, but current generation, they believe or they trust the what's shown on YouTube a lot more than what's being shown on the news itself, because that's quite authentic in terms of someone with the GoPro going around filming stuff. That's more real because that's not being edited out by a big corporation, for example. So it's interesting you mentioned that because my students don't watch the news anymore now. They don't watch TV, partially because it's too long. They don't sit down and watch a film. They watch multiple films at the same time. And whilst they're watching the films, they're on the phone watching TikTok and YouTube. So the extent, their attention span, it needs to be very, very quick, isn't it? So I guess the media industry is changing in that sense, where how do you capture that quickly? Because, everyone's just on a rush all the time. But I guess that also comes back to appreciation of slowing down as well at some point. So, I mean, we are talking about, because my wife paints. And you'll be surprised the amount of people who watches, like subscribers to people learning how to paint. And it's like there are millions of watches, people subscribing and watching watercolor painting, for example. So it's going backwards in some ways. The appreciation for handcrafted talent, So I guess in a world where everything is fast, I guess there's appreciation for something that's more tactile and slow brewing process, I guess.
I mean, it happens with me too. And I believe this happens with almost everyone at 2 a.m. in the morning when you're trying to sleep. And all of a sudden you're watching a DIY video. Just 2 a.m. in the morning. So there's a lot of content, and there is no regulation as such on that content also. So what's your take on when it comes to regulating the content on the internet? And what should be the approach as a university or as a professor when it comes to, giving the right idea to the students, like this is the right content or this is not the right content, or is creative industry a completely open industry wherein there is no right or wrong, it's just creativity flowing through. So when I watch Adult Swim, the content is completely offbeat. When I watch shows like Rick and Morty, it's completely different. When I watch shows like when it comes to animation, of course, Adventure Time, it's completely different. But then there is a huge range of content that is available online. And I feel that the kind of access that kids have these days, there should be some kind of regulation on the media that is being consumed or the content that is being consumed by everyone, because not everyone will take it in the right way. Because dark humor can be really dark for people who are not up for it. And kids can take it to a completely different direction.
Wow.
So this is what I was thinking of. So when it comes to a kind of a responsibility as a creator, how are we instilling that responsibility in the students? Like instead of talking to the media houses that you should ban this content or something, as a creator, we should be more mindful when creating these kind of content.
For sure.
That's a great question, and it's a very pertinent one. I mean, I don't have an answer.
I'm so sorry.
No, but that's I would say as an academic, it's not my position to give you a black and white decision on that. It's the kind of question that we would debate in our more theory-based classes and talk about the roles and responsibilities. You can say, well, look, it's the parents. They're the ones that should be governing what their children watch. It's not up to me to assume who's watching it. I make this content for myself, and if people like it or not, then so be it. But as public broadcasters, there's certainly a responsibility, and as educators, we need to give students the tools. Now, they can choose to throw that out the window when they leave and make their own piece, but they need to have an understanding. For me, copyright is the issue in terms of compliance and legalities. Like, students say to me, I've got this great idea. Should I send that to this production company? And if I do, and they decide to use it, but they don't credit me, have I lost my IP? And it's like, yeah, maybe. This is a great question. Students' ideas are currency, and students have such great ideas, and they're of a target audience that big, mean corporates are very keen to take those concepts and maybe rip somebody off. So these are the sorts of things that I students need to be learning about. How do you protect yourself? How do you protect your ideas? You talked earlier about music rights. You can't just take a Madonna song and slap it underneath your YouTube video and expect to get away with that. It's going to be spotted. It's going to be so. An awareness is important, and we don't claim to have all the answers, but we give students the tools to be able to make their own decisions based on, here's what industry says, here's where it might be going next. These are the ramifications for that. This is what you need to be aware of. Make your own decision.
The reason why I was asking this is because being creative is one thing, but also being mindful about whether the world is ready for that kind of content or not. So I've seen Monty Python, and I'm a big fan of Monty Python. I feel that all the content that we saw in the early days of YouTube, when it comes to stand-up comedy acts or the kind of skits that they do, it was all inspired by Monty Python or even National Lampoon in a way. But I feel at the same time, the world was not ready for National Lampoon or Monty Python at that time. And that's why we got so many regulations when it comes to the free speech or, stopping creators from creating content which can create some kind of, discomfort among people or among the population. So if this can be included in the education curriculum or maybe in the modules, even if the student is not paying attention to it, this will really make them think twice before making a decision, because they will at least remember the education that they have gained. So, I mean, just a thought that I had in mind.
That's a very good point, actually. Because, you can't stop students from making whatever they want to make, isn't it? But that's when what we have by negotiation. So, for example, especially in the final year where students actually make their own films, or second year, they can't just go and make whatever they want, right? So it is all through negotiation. So they have to have a discussion with the team. The team also includes the tutors as well, and that's when we will green light it or not. So you can't just go, I'll make and I'll see you later. They have to have to pitch like how you would pitch to the studio.
True.
So you pitch your ideas. And we'll say, maybe it's a bit sensitive, a bit political. We're trying to get into the political side of things if we can, especially filmmaking, because it can get a bit touchy. So this is when we will have a roundtable discussion between the students and the staff itself, and we'll guide the students all the way through. So to make sure that, again, we're talking about festivals, and festivals have regulations. What could be included in them, what can't. So, and we'll make sure that, it's not stepping on any other toes, and making sure that it kind of fits within the regulation of the festival itself. So there's some sort of control, I suppose. But what the students do after that, when they graduate,
that's up to them.
Well, you can make what you want, but you might not necessarily get a very good mark.
True.
So that's the bottom line. And often we will ask the student. I mean, there's two approaches. There's either you're making it as an experiment in a sort of a safe space, or you do it as a real world project and you do it as industry would. And if that's the case, then why wouldn't you knock on industry's door and say, can I make this for your website, for example?
Yeah.
And if they agreed, then there's somebody there who's going to either approve it or not, and you would have to meet their criteria. And in doing so, demonstrate professionalism. That's only going to help your mark. So, an understanding, a recognition of ethics, that's a huge part of it. Legal compliance, broadcast standards. If you can show your understanding of this, and you've done a health and safety form or a sustainability form, risk assessments, if you can show the way the world works in terms of professionalism, you're going to be rewarded for that. And then, as Kelvin says, as soon as you leave university, you can throw it all out the window. But at least you know and understand that. Yeah. And that's what we're trying to give you.
Well, this reminds me of another TV show that I've seen. So there's a show called Black Mirror. I'm sure you must have seen this. Yeah. And there was this one, specific story that I want to talk about. The name of the story was Vote for Waldo. I'm sure you guys must have seen it or not, but there was this animated character on TV who used to roast politicians. Okay, so it was just a skit, a kind of comedy skit on a particular channel. Now, what happened was one of the politicians took it seriously, and he invited Waldo for a face-off. Waldo won because it's an animated character, it's fiction, and people started liking Waldo. So Waldo stood up for elections. He won the election. And the main character, the main artist who was doing the voiceover for Waldo and using his own original ideas, he was replaced by his boss, who's now working for the government as a dictator behind Waldo. So the reason why I'm asking this question is because that clicked. I mean, that rang a bell in my mind that there is a very thin line between fiction and reality. And as a creator, what steps should we take to ensure that people are not misunderstanding that? And how can we identify, or is there any way? We have deep fakes also these days, and there's a lot that goes on in the world. So I'm sure is it too heavy?
Well, it's
is it interesting?
Yeah, but it's a perennial challenge. I mean, you could go back to Citizen Kane and say, well, that's based on a real person, but it's fictionalized, but everybody knew. So that's never gone away. You're always going to be inspired by events and people around you. You don't want to be sued, but there's always been in creativity that tension between representation, fact, fiction. Coming back to AI, deep fake, all that sort of stuff. It's a scary world in terms of what I was talking about earlier, in terms of recognizing what's real and what's not, being able to make people say things that they never said, and then passing that off as authenticity. It's a different world, and again, we don't pretend to have the answers, but we will debate and assess and look at all the different repercussions and let students, make those decisions, I guess.
Yeah, I guess students need to really find out what the truth is. For example, you just can't just take one source and just take that as a gospel. You have to go research and find other angles of what that, for example, that message is, or the news, for example, because there's so many doctored footages, or it could be fake, could be AI, it could be even if it's a real one, but the way it's been edited tells a different story. So I guess as a viewer, you need to not take it as a face value. You got to go find the answers yourself. For example, I'm not trying to get political, but for example, if a politician tells you something, media, I'm not trying to say bad things about media, but sometimes they give you little clips of what he has said, but probably out of context, without you being there to listen to the whole speech, for example.
I could turn this into a lecture, to be honest, if we're talking about objectivity, because I'm not a journalist.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm a producer,
Mhm.
but I make my content as entertainment, not as
Mhm.
journalism.
Mhm.
Now, I teach journalism students. I also have elements of journalism within my own work as a researcher and
Mhm.
as an interviewer, but I want to entertain.
True.
And I have no qualms about editing something and putting that bit at the beginning and then moving that bit around. Now, that's not authentic,
Mm.
but it helps to tell the story, and that's okay as far as I'm concerned. So,
Mhm.
this idea of objectivity is a difficult one because I'm ultimately the person who decides who I'm interviewing,
True.
what I edit. I came up with the idea for the story.
Mhm.
So it can't help but be biased.
Mm.
So we don't say to students, you have to be impartial. We say, recognize your biases, recognize where you might be, weak,
Mhm.
recognize the need for inclusivity and diversity, and try and find some other voices that might counter the narrative that you think you might tell. Question that, and these are the sorts of media producers that we want to create.
Yeah.
Aware, reflective, questioning, and again, curious.
Storytelling.
Storytelling. Perfect. So talking about the courses, so what courses do we have at Birmingham City University?
We have a lot of courses at Birmingham City University. So from my side of the university, we have media. So undergraduate media courses that transition into postgraduate media courses, media production. Journalism is a very big part of what we do as well. We have music business. PR is really popular as well. So yeah, a range of interesting English and media courses. And as Kelvin will say, you go to our website, you visit bcu.ac.uk, and there's a line that says courses. And if you just put in media or journalism or PR, those courses will come up and you'll be able to see them. But yeah, there's no shortage of courses, Kelvin.
Ours is more on the creative courses. So we have, for ours, we have photography, animation, filmmaking. Also, we have games as well. So computer games, there's interesting computer games that's always growing. And then we got the other side, which is the more creative, more visuals. That's the illustration, graphic design, advertising. And also we've got the postgraduate courses.
So pretty much everything.
Everything, yeah. Everything in the entertainment industry and the creative industry as well.
And I'm sure students do require a portfolio for applying these courses. So what, according to you, is more like a winning portfolio for a student? Like, what do you exactly look for?
For us, our courses don't actually require a portfolio, but I was talking earlier about the personal statement and conveying your passion and enthusiasm. And if you do have a YouTube site or a podcast or vlog or whatever, I would put links to that in there because, again, that kind of initiative means a lot to us. So, yeah.
For us, it varies from course to course, but because it's very much a visual-led course, we want to see that you have some talent beforehand, that you're able to draw. I think that's important. I think you can draw, you can design. It shows that, sketchbooks, that's really important. So you've got some sketchbooks that can show us that you could draw. It doesn't have to be beautiful drawings, but we want to see that you understand lines, form, values, perspective. That is great. But again, I'm just saying, for example, animation. You don't have to be an animator to join the course. You could have zero knowledge about animation. That's where we'll teach you how to do so. But the personal statement is where it's really important because then we can understand your passion. The things about being really passionate about the subject matter that you want to get into, whether it's drawing, illustration, photography, and so on. So, for example, for photography, we kind of expect that you're able to take photos, right? So if you want to do filmmaking, then you probably have some interest in making films. I mean, everyone's got a mobile phone now, so you can actually make a little short film. I mean, yeah, you could have your YouTube channels and all, but I think what we try to look for in the students is potential, and the students have something that we could nurture them. And if they are passionate about the subject they want to get into, then that's a lot easier for us to work with them. The worst thing is that students do not know what they want to do and just go with the flow, just because it's a popular course. That's when it can be a little bit difficult.
Well, that's why we are here, Pine Overseas, because we have a psychometric analysis for students. So we have seen a lot of students getting into MBA, even though they are well suited for fashion design, maybe. Yeah. And a lot of students going to fashion design when they are well suited for maybe physics or science related courses. So the psychometric test that we have that identifies the core characteristics of their personality and suggests a profession based on their characteristics. So if they are too chatty, it will suggest professions like being a lawyer or being a host or being an MC or being an anchor or getting into media as a presenter. If they're quite introvert, but they have the analytical skills or the statistical skills, will suggest them to get into business analytics or courses like that. So this is something that we are doing. So shout out for Pine Overseas, of course. Let's get to the rapid fire round. So what's one essential skill every creative student should master?
Well, curiosity, I'm not sure if it's a skill, but we come back to that point. Like, if you are curious, you'll succeed. And if it is a skill, then I'd say, and this is a skill too, self-reflection.
I would say passion for the subject matter. I think that's really important because you got to love what you do. And that would sustain you career-wise.
Perfect. Next question is, biggest lesson learned in your career so far?
You can teach a skill, but you can't teach an attitude. Attitude is everything.
That's a good one.
Thanks.
Deadlines. Meet your deadlines.
Okay. So a book, a podcast, or mentor that changed your professional life?
I had a mentor when I was starting out who I was very keen to be a radio DJ. And then this guy came along and showed me creative writing, production, basically. He changed me from wanting to be in front of the microphone to wanting to be behind the microphone. Neil Jenkins was his name. And that really changed my life, to not necessarily, to realize that there's more to being in front of the microphone and that actually it's the producer that tells the presenter what to say. So, that was a very early lesson that I learned, and it stood me in good stead.
For me, I guess it would be going to college. Does that kind of take it, I suppose? I mean, without me going to college and learning everything, all discipline in arts, because I did illustration, I did photography, I did animation, illustration, and so on. I think without knowing all of those, I probably wouldn't know what I want to do. And also knowing all of those kind of gave me a strong basis for art.
So your college books.
Yeah, college books. Yeah, college experience, because I think that built a very, very strong foundation for me, because I would then understand how all of this works, because it's all creative tools. They are tool sets, but at least I know how each of them works in tandem. Yeah.
Perfect. The next question is, one underrated trend creatives should explore right now. That one thing you feel every creative person or every person in media industry should explore, apart from AI.
So I would say check out industry awards. Yeah, see who's making attention. Rather than a technology or something, I'd be looking at the people in your industry or your chosen industry who are making moves, doing interesting stuff. See what they're up to. Follow them on X or whatever. But networking, I think, and understanding the industry is often overlooked by students.
True.
But that deeper understanding of who's doing what and how are they getting funding for it, and are they winning awards for it? And if so, who was the associate producer on that project? And, that sort of deep dive, I think is really, really important.
For me, I would say, well, that's the one thing definitely it's really useful. Going to festivals, students should really do that. But for me, I think go see the world. Go and experience the world, because that would teach you a lot of things. Don't be afraid to go somewhere. It doesn't have to go far, but go somewhere and experience it, because you can't be creative sitting behind a computer and looking at Google. If you want to study a subject matter, go and look at the subject matter. Go and feel it, touch it, because some things are quite tactile. To understand the space, go to that place and explore it. So I think that's life changing, because a picture can't tell you how that feels, how that smells. You do really need to be in that place to understand what you're facing.
There's nothing that, as creative as the nature itself.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So this brings us to the next question. How do you recharge during creative burnouts?
Sleep. Music for me, either listening to music or going to concerts, something like that. That's my great relaxer. Yeah.
I run.
Okay.
Yeah, I run half marathons. So
wow.
That gives me a break from work and from the noise, because running kind of frees you, I suppose, because you're just concentrating on your breathing, the rhythm.
So what has been your proudest career moment so far?
Wow. This interview.
Oh my God.
This interview, yeah.
So there's been a few projects, as I said. I'm very proud of my students. Seeing them achieve and getting awards is very rewarding. Getting my PhD was a relief. But there's been a couple of projects. I did a radio series for XFM, an old radio station based in London, and that won gold at the New York Radio Festivals. I was very proud of that. But then in COVID, I had some students from a range of different universities working together on a project for Greatest Hits Radio. And I think that's probably the proudest, because the students were paid for their work and got it broadcast on a national radio station. And we made some really good content when everybody was in lockdown, but we did it all remotely.
Wow.
And we got a lot of listeners involved and a lot of great presenters, and made a series of radio shows that were played out. And I think that's probably a career highlight for me.
Yeah, I think very, very similar in that sense, where if you start to see students going up to receive an award, that's always...
Or get a job.
Get a job, yeah. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to win awards, but yeah, getting a job, definitely, because sometimes you can see where they've gone to as well, which really... It does feels very. That's why we're still in this industry of teaching, isn't it? Because it is very rewarding to see where students are in their life, in their career. Because that is quite nice that you have changed somebody else's life for the better.
Or they'll come back in and speak to the students, and that's a great circle.
That's the most potent form of job satisfaction that we can get. Creating people's life in the right direction and channelizing their creativity in the right direction.
Privilege.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. And one last question. If you were mentoring your younger self, what one goal you would set? Or you can say one message that you would want to give to your younger self.
Don't worry so much. Just do it. And it'll work out.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I think when we're younger, we worry too much about expectations and career goals and what people might think, but it's never a straight trajectory. And so one thing I'd say is everything you do, if you do it with passion and enthusiasm, it will pay off. It may not be immediate. You might not see the results of that for 10 years, but somewhere down the line, that experience, that project will feed into something you're doing, and you'll go, I got this one. I know what this is about. And everything, as I say, if it comes from hard work and dedication, if you put everything into it, it's not a waste. Everything, has a reason, I guess. Yeah.
I would say, very similar as well to what you have, but I would say don't be afraid, because I think that's the that's the thing that will probably hold you back, I suppose, in doing whatever you want to try to do, is being afraid of not working out, being afraid of failure. Because if you don't even start to do it, then you have failed before you even started. So yeah, just go for it, I guess. I mean, within means.
It's like better try and fail than fail to try.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect.
At least you could look back and say, you've done it, didn't work out, but that's okay. You've learned from it.
Well, thank you so much for joining me for this podcast. I hope you guys have, had an amazing time. I'm just running out of words because I'm still thinking of questions that I didn't ask or the questions we could talk about. So is there anything else that you guys would like to highlight or you guys would like to talk about before we go to the final words of wisdom?
I would just say, come to Birmingham City University. You know, we're incredibly proud of our institution. It's been very good for us. We've both, been at this institution for about 20 years, haven't we? Which says a lot. But it's constantly challenging us, the students that we meet, the technology that we have, the people that we work with. We wouldn't have stayed there that long unless it was a great environment. And also Birmingham's a great city. It's the second biggest in the UK. It's easy to get to London. The airport's great. You can scoot around Europe and see the world while being based there. But also it's quite affordable as well. So it's a great city as a young person to kind of get out and make the most of it and soak up the great culture that Birmingham has. It's very Indian friendly, I would say, as well. A great diaspora of people. So I'm just incredibly proud of what courses that we all offer, and would encourage any student to just at least come and check out what we have to offer. And actually, if you wanted to contact either Kelvin or myself, hopefully you can make the emails available. We'll be happy to answer any questions.
I'll definitely do that. So we have the scan code and the toll-free number that we have, and this toll-free number goes directly to my team. Yeah. So if anyone who's interested in applying at Birmingham City University, please call us on 1-800-309-PINE. That's 309-7463. And apart from that, we'll be also showing you the information about the Birmingham City University, the entry requirements, the courses that are available, the scholarships that are available. So please reach out to us, or you can scan the QR code, which is down here, and we'll be more than happy to assist you. Okay. So once again, thank you so much, Sam and Kelvin, for making time for this discussion. I'm sure the students will find this insightful and they'll be able to make a sound decision in deciding on the course that they want to go for. Of course, the university is going to be Birmingham City University. Okay. And before we depart, any words of wisdom that you would want to share with the future generation or with the upcoming students who will be coming in the upcoming September intake or maybe January intake?
Make content.
Make content.
Make it. Just do it. Don't wait for permission. You can do it. So go out there and make it. Yeah.
We say don't be afraid. Just make stuff. Whatever you're making, just go ahead and do it. Again, be passionate about what you wanna do. And that would lead to you making content.
Perfect. Thank you so much once again for joining us. And I hope you have an eventful trip in India. And do reach out to us in case you have if you need any kind of assistance. Okay. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.